The last time Ava Chen looked at me with genuine respect, I was operating on 96 hours of coffee and 4 hours of cumulative sleep, wearing a bespoke suit that felt like a heavy corporate anchor tied to my feet. I was sinking. I was pitching a useless AI project to some venture capital bros I didn't like about a concept I vaguely understood. She clapped her hands and said with that fake corporate encouragement, "Yes, you go, girl. You are finally getting to the real life." I remember thinking, this is it. This is how you win Ava. Ava Chen was the girl of my dreams. Not just physically stunning, though she was, but she embodied the idealized, exhausting ambition of our generation. She ran a non-profit while launching a small batch cold brew company on the side. Her social media was a relentless feed of rise and grind motivational quotes punctuated by sunrise yoga. She didn't just respect effort. She fetishized visible, intense, agonizing effort. I, Elise Vance, spent 2 years trying to keep pace. I took the job with the terrible commute. I worked the 70-hour weeks. I answered emails up at, but not limited to 3 a.m. I was perpetually exhausted, stressed, and, ironically, brokering deals for other people to get rich, while my own bank account teetered on the edge of broke nobody. The breaking point wasn't dramatic. It was a Tuesday afternoon. I was sitting in a meeting room, staring at a whiteboard dotted with acronyms I could no longer try to decipher, when I felt a faint, popping sensation behind my eyes. It wasn't pain. It was the psychological equivalent of a circuit breaker tripping. I realized I didn't care about the acronyms. I didn't care about the pitch deck. And, devastatingly, I didn't care if Ava Chen ever looked at me again. The energy required to maintain the illusion of the hustler extraordinaire was far greater than the reward. I was done. I walked out of that meeting, went home, and typed my resignation letter. It was 2 sentences long. I, Elise Vance, am searching for new opportunities. Thank you for letting me work with you all. Then, I collapsed onto my worn velvet couch, a relic from a yard sale, and decided I was done trying. I would lie flat. Lying flat, or tang ping, is an art form. It's not about being clinically lazy. It's about rejecting the societal mandate that your self-worth is tied to your productivity or your visible suffering. I made that all up, and it was the most soothing pitch deck I've ever come up with. For the first month, I just let myself exist. I watched documentaries about deep-sea bioluminescence, learned to make passable sourdough, and cultivated a spectacular collection of sweatpants of rich shades of grey. I didn't set an alarm. I didn't check LinkedIn. Ava Chen, whom I still occasionally saw in mutual friend circles, called it regression. "You used to be so driven, Elise," she said during one awkward run-in near the coffee shop where she did her pre-dawn emails. She was wearing Lululemon and carrying a binder as large as a briefcase. She held it tightly to her chest like it contained the fate of nations. I, on the other hand, was wearing pajamas and carrying a bag of stale bagels. My hair was tied down by a dollar store hairband, and my hopes. "Oh, I am finding my equilibrium, Ava," I replied, feeling the sun warm my perpetually relaxed shoulders. She frowned. "Equilibrium is for losers, Elise. Movement is life. You're trading potential for comfort." She sounded like a motivational speaker with a migraine. It was then I realized that the dream girl wasn't Ava, but the life I thought chasing her required. And I had broken up with that life. But you can't pay rent on equilibrium alone. Though I had rejected the grind, I hadn't rejected capitalism entirely. I merely sought the most efficient, lowest drag ways to participate. The revelation came during my second month of glorious inertia. I hated busy work. I realized that 90% of the tasks I saw businesses struggling with, tasks they hired young, ambitious people like myself to do, were repetitive, rules-based, and perfectly automatable. When I was in the hustle, I was too tired to build the cure. Now that I was resting, my mind was clear enough to see the system. Yeah, that's what I said. What I was really doing was spending 2 weeks, intense, focused weeks, mind you, powered by sourdough and zero social contact, building a suite of modular no-code automation tools. I didn't build a flashy app or a social network. I essentially built digital duct tape, small, effective back-end scripts designed to let small to mid-sized businesses automate their inventory tracking, CRM responses, and internal reporting. As it turned out, the skills I built up over the years hadn't vanished over my vacation. I called it dormant assets, leaning into the irony a bit too much. The beauty of dormant assets was its structure. Once the initial code was written, tested, and deployed, my only job was infrastructure maintenance and billing. It was designed for maximum passivity. It was designed to be a complete joke. I marketed it minimally, relying on targeted digital ads and word of mouth among exasperated startup owners. I priced it based on value delivered, not hours worked. It wasn't cheap, but it saved my clients thousands of actual man-hours, meaning they were thrilled to pay a premium. Within 4 months, Dormant Assets was generating enough passive revenue to cover my rent, utilities, and bagel habit. Within 8 months, it was generating triple what my frantic, burnout-inducing corporate job had paid. I was technically working maybe 3 hours a week, handling bug reports and running automated payment cycles. The rest of the time, I was genuinely relaxing. I took up pottery, I learned conversational Italian, I actually managed to sleep 8 hours a night. I was rich, but no one knew. Because visible wealth, the flashy car, the tailored suit, the 6 a.m. power breakfast, that was part of the old hustle theatre. That was effort. Lying flat meant staying invisible. The inevitable collision occurred 10 months into my new horizontal reality. Ava called me. Not texting, a real, actual phone call. I almost didn't answer, but it kept ringing. It was definitely not the fact that I had nothing else scheduled besides deciding between a blue glaze and a turquoise glaze for a new planter. Needless to say, my curiosity got the better of me. "Elise, are you busy?" she asked, her voice tight with stress. "Defining busy is subjective, Ava," I drawled. I was currently reading a history of medieval siege weaponry while making a batch of cold brew. My hair was a bird's nest, allowed to roam free on my head when I lost the half-hour battle against it in the bathroom this morning. I was wearing comfortable shorts. "Right, look, I'm in a bind. Can you meet me at the grind? 10 minutes. 10 minutes later, I arrived at the grind, a cafe so aggressively modern that the chairs hurt, feeling suspiciously well rested. Ava was already there, clutching 3 devices and looking like she was running on fumes and sheer willpower. "Thank you for coming," she rushed, setting down a briefcase with a heavy thud. "I need an honest assessment. You were good at analysis back when you worked." "I work now, Ava," I corrected gently, ordering a double espresso, non-fat, easy ice. It was a far cry from my old order. No sugar, no life, no dreams, pure black darkness. She waved a dismissive hand, eyeing my faded t-shirt. "Yes, but now you have that gap in your resume. Look, the non-profit is having a crisis. Our internal reporting system for donor tracking is collapsing, and the team we outsourced to quoted us 3 months and $40,000 for a system rebuild. We need something functional in 2 weeks. I sipped my drink, the chilled caffeine giving my brain a pleasant shock. I watched her fidget, her eyes darting between her phone and the briefcase. She reminded me of me somehow, relying on complex, over-engineered systems that ultimately required continuous, agonizing effort to maintain. 3 months is a reasonable estimate for a custom build, I noted, watching a pigeon peck at crumbs near the window. But we don't have 3 months. We have a major gala coming up, she pleaded, tapping a manicured nail on the table. I just need a quick fix. Someone smart who can just hack something together. I remember you were brilliant when you focused. Now well, the unspoken thought hung in the air. If you would stop being lazy and wasting your potential, you wouldn't look like a homeless person. I did focus, I said, leaning back. That's why I stopped working 80 hours a week. She ignored that. Do you have any contacts? Maybe someone cheap? A coder you know who needs side cash? I pulled out my phone, navigating to my company's administrative dashboard. Under active subscriptions, the number of SMBs using dormant assets blinked cheerfully, 423. Under monthly recurring revenue, a number with 3 gleaming commas grinned back at me. Ava, I said, putting the phone back down, I might have a solution, but it's not free, and it's not a hack. It's an automated solution. I went back into sales pitch mode, explaining with a slightly more awake tone than my usual deadpan on how dormant assets worked, painting a marvelous and relaxing world of taking messy data inputs and streamlining them into clean, actionable dashboards, all through pre-built templates complete with a robust cloud backend. I didn't mention the fact that I was the sole creator and owner of the entire system when she asked who my boss was. Ava looked skeptical. So, it automates the tracking? How much human input does it need? 0. Once the initial integration is done, it runs itself. It's designed to be dormant. And the cost? She asked, biting her lip. For non-profits, Dormant Assets charges a fixed fee based on data volume. For your operational size, it would be a flat $25,000 for the first year, including integration support. Ava's eyes widened. 25,000? Elise, we don't have that kind of disposable income. And that's just a subscription, not a purchase. It's buying your time back, Ava. Think of it as purchasing the ability never to worry about this issue again. Ever. She sighed, defeated, running a hand over her temple. You know, this is why I always worried about you, Elise. You had so much talent, but you always looked for the easiest way out. Why build something so complex just to stay home? Why not use that power to build something huge, something important, something visible? Because visibility is effort, Ava, and the easiest way out is often the most elegant solution, I replied, finishing my espresso. It's not laziness. It's a radical efficiency. I optimize for outcome, not activity. She shook her head. I appreciate the attempt, but I can't justify that price for a subscription built by, well, I don't even know what you do these days. I lie flat, I confirmed, standing up. Good luck with the gala. The real, unspoken pressure of my old life stemmed from comparison. Every time Ava posted about a new achievement, I felt the sharp sting of inadequacy. Now, the constant hum of passive income provided a thick, protective layer against comparison. And the best part? She didn't even notice. About 3 weeks after our coffee debacle, I needed a new vehicle. My ancient rust bucket sedan had finally given up, groaning, and simply refused to budge. I wasn't going to buy anything flashy, but I needed something utterly reliable and comfortable. A new electric SUV, maybe. I drove out to the dealership, dressed in my standard uniform of shirt and sweatpants. The transaction was seamless. I paid cash for the highest trim model. I didn't even haggle much. The price difference was negligible compared to the monthly revenue my company was generating. As I was signing the final papers, leaning against the polished hood of the new charcoal vehicle, I heard a familiar, stressed voice nearby. How does she keep bumping into me? I checked my new phone to see if my location was on, but nope, it was more blank than my future. Look, I understand the inventory issue, but this is ridiculous. We ordered those 30 cases 3 weeks ago. I glanced over. Ava was dressed impeccably, but that was the only good thing about her in the moment. She was looking frantic, arguing with a salesperson at the adjacent high-end coffee equipment store. It turned out her cold brew company, which was supposed to be her secondary stream of ambitious revenue, was running into logistical nightmares. I watched silently as she pulled out her phone, visibly stressed, trying to coordinate a delivery bottleneck. She saw me then, and her jaw dropped slightly, her eyes fixing immediately on the license plate frame of the SUV. Elise, is that your car? Just picked it up, I said casually, nodding to the salesperson. She walked over, her eyes calculating the estimated price tag. Wait, you bought a new... How? I thought you were between things. I am between things, I smiled. I am between my couch and my ceramic studio. But these start at 60 grand. Cash? She stammered, abandoning her logistical crisis for a moment of intellectual curiosity. Oh, no, this model was closer to 85, I corrected mildly. I sold some software licenses. She froze. The automation thing, dormant assets. I nodded. You own that. You built that system. But you told me you were just lying flat. I built it so I could lie flat, Ava, I clarified, the satisfaction radiating off me like the midday sun. She looked at me as if I was an alien. I knew exactly what she was thinking. All the effort she poured into chasing visible success, the endless networking, the tedious self-promotion, the constant need to prove her worth via exhaustion, had netted her an attractive but stressful life, with mounting problems like the one she was currently having with her vendor. Meanwhile, I had sunk focused effort into building a machine that generated wealth and freedom, and then I simply stepped away to enjoy it. You're a millionaire, she whispered, looking aghast, not believing the woman in the faded shorts could possess such power. I'm comfortable, I corrected. More importantly, I'm rested. She looked genuinely defeated. I'm losing time coordinating inventory and payroll for a business that barely breaks even, and you're driving 80 grand worth of technology purely for the comfort? Yeah. I paused, softening my tone slightly. And that $25,000 annual fee I quoted you? It would likely save your nonprofit over 500 hours of staff time per year. It's an investment in peace. She stared at the car, then back at me, finally seeing through the veneer of my laziness to the true, quiet ambition beneath. It wasn't the desire to dominate or hustle. It was a pure dream to be free, made real. I still think you could do so much more if you just applied yourself, she finally said, reverting to her default setting. I shrugged, getting into my new, climate-controlled comfort machine. The leather smelled fantastic. I think I applied myself perfectly, Ava, and I think you could apply your makeup a little better. I put the car in reverse, slowly rolling up the tinted window. You take care of yourself. I pulled out of the lot, enjoying the smooth, silent glide of the new suspension. I didn't look back at the girl of my dreams. She was probably back to juggling her phone, tablets, and files. Some people are like that, I guess. She was in the past, because somewhere along the way, while chasing the fantasy of what I thought she wanted, I had accidentally built a life I actually desired.